Language is one of the most powerful tools our species has ever invented. It allows us to share complex ideas, build civilizations, and pass knowledge down through generations. Think about it. With just a few vibrations in the air or some symbols on a screen, I can transfer an idea from my mind directly into yours. This process is so fundamental to our existence that we often forget how truly strange and powerful it is. We use words to construct a shared model of the universe, a mental blueprint that we all agree upon, which allows us to cooperate on a massive scale and achieve incredible things, from building cities to exploring the cosmos. But this incredible tool comes with a hidden danger. The words we use are not just labels for things that already exist, they actively shape the very way we perceive the world around us. Our language carves up the seamless reality of the universe into neat, manageable boxes. We see a spectrum of light, but our words force us to name distinct colors like blue and green. Where does one end and the other begin? The boundary is an invention of our language, a useful fiction. This act of naming and categorizing is how our brains make sense of an overwhelmingly complex existence. But in doing so, it creates a simplified version of reality that lives inside our heads. This mental model, built from the bricks of vocabulary and the mortar of grammar, becomes the world we experience. It is a simulation of reality, and like any simulation, it has limitations and potential bugs. When we learn a word, we don't just learn a sound, we inherit a whole network of associated ideas, emotions, and cultural baggage. The word star is not just a scientific term for a ball of plasma undergoing nuclear fusion. It carries with it millennia of human wonder, mythology, and dreams of exploration. This richness is part of what makes language beautiful. But it also means that the world we perceive through our words is always filtered and colored by human history and emotion. The problem, the tyranny, arises when we forget that we are living within this linguistic simulation. We start to believe that our words are the world itself, that the categories we've invented are fundamental truths of nature. We mistake the convenience of a label for the complexity of the thing it represents. This confusion is the source of countless misunderstandings and conflicts. It's a cognitive trap that is incredibly easy to fall into, because our brains are wired for efficiency, and treating words as reality is the ultimate shortcut. Recognizing this trap is the first step toward thinking more clearly and seeing the universe as it is, not just as our language describes it. Imagine you have a map of a great city. This map is incredibly useful. It shows you the layout of the streets, the locations of landmarks, and the fastest routes from one point to another. You can use this map to navigate a complex environment with confidence. Language functions in much the same way. Our words and concepts are mental maps that we use to navigate the territory of reality. They help us understand relationships, predict outcomes, and communicate our position to others. Without these maps, we would be lost in a sea of unstructured sensory data, unable to make sense of anything. However, a critical error occurs when we forget a fundamental truth. The map is not the territory. A map is a representation, a simplified model of a place. It is, by its very nature, incomplete and potentially outdated. The real city has textures, sounds, and smells that the map cannot capture. A new building might have gone up, or a road might be closed for construction, details that make the map an inaccurate guide. Similarly, our words are not the things they describe. The word water will not quench your thirst. The word fire will not warm your hands. They are pointers, symbols, static labels for a dynamic and infinitely complex reality. This distinction becomes especially dangerous when we deal with high-level abstract words. Consider a word like freedom. We can all agree that it's a desirable concept, something worth striving for. But what does it actually refer to in the physical world? Ask 10 different people, and you might get 10 different answers. Does it mean freedom from government regulation, freedom from poverty, freedom to express any opinion without consequence? The word itself is like a map of a country that doesn't exist. It's a powerful and emotionally charged symbol, but it points to no single, verifiable territory. It's a blank space on which we can project our own hopes and fears. The same problem applies to other grand ideas like justice, truth, or security. These words are powerful rallying cries, capable of moving nations and starting revolutions. Yet, they are some of the blurriest maps we possess. When people argue over justice, they are often not arguing about a shared reality. Instead, they are clashing over their personal, unexamined definitions. They are fighting over the map, forgetting to ever look at the territory. This confusion between the symbol and the reality it is supposed to represent is the engine of so much human conflict. a cognitive glitch that allows misunderstanding to fester and grow into full-blown animosity. When language becomes detached from observable reality, it becomes a powerful tool for manipulation. Politicians and ideologues are masters of this art. They use abstract, emotionally charged language to bypass our critical thinking faculties and appeal directly to our tribal instincts. They speak of national greatness, our sacred way of life, or defending against enemies of the people. These phrases are designed to evoke strong feelings of loyalty and fear. But what do they mean in concrete terms? They are what the semanticist Stewart Chase called blab, words that make noise but convey no verifiable information. They are puffs of smoke, creating an illusion of substance where none exists. This kind of language functions like a password for a group. When you use the right abstract terms, you signal that you are part of the in-group and that you share its values. This short-circuits the need for evidence or logical argument. Your brain hears the password and thinks, "This person is one of us. I can trust what they say." This allows leaders to mobilize populations without ever having to define their terms or defend their plans with factual evidence. People are not stirred to action by data and careful reasoning. They are moved by these grand, empty symbols that tap into our deepest emotions and prejudices, leading them to support policies they might otherwise question. This tyranny of words creates an echo chamber. Inside this chamber, certain abstractions are repeated over and over until they feel like solid truths. We argue passionately about capitalism versus socialism, as if they were two clearly defined, monolithic objects. In reality, every nation on Earth employs a complex mix of economic strategies. These labels are crude, often misleading simplifications, yet we treat them as real things, fighting imaginary battles between two ghosts. The constant repetition of these vague terms reinforces the illusion, making it harder and harder to see the complex reality that lies beyond the labels we have created for it. The result is a public discourse that is often little more than a clash of undefined noises. We become trapped in verbal loops, arguing about the words themselves rather than the real-world problems they are supposed to represent. This benefits those in power who prefer a confused and divided populace, one that is easily swayed by emotional appeals and unable to unite over concrete, fact-based solutions. A population that cannot think clearly because its language is foggy is a population that can be easily led. The tyranny of words becomes a very real form of political control, shaping our thoughts and actions without our conscious consent. So, how do we escape this prison of our own making? How do we reclaim our minds from the tyranny of words? The solution is both simple in concept and difficult in practice. We must become disciplined and critical users of language. The most powerful weapon we have against verbal manipulation is a simple, persistent question. What do you mean by that specifically? This question is a tool for intellectual self-defense. It forces us, and the people we are communicating with, to move from the realm of foggy abstractions down to the solid ground of the observable world. It is a request for evidence, a demand to see the territory behind the map. When someone speaks of making the country better, ask them, better for whom and in what specific way? Are you talking about lowering unemployment by a certain percentage, improving literacy rates, reducing industrial pollution? Give me a number. Show me the data. This habit of demanding specifics acts as a filter, separating meaningful communication from empty noise. It forces clarity and accountability. A person who can answer this question has a real idea to share. A person who cannot or will not is likely dealing in the kind of blab designed to confuse, not to inform. Applying this rigor to our own thoughts is just as important. By practicing this semantic hygiene, we can inoculate ourselves against propaganda and demagoguery. We learn to recognize when our emotions are being manipulated by vague, powerful symbols. We start to see the difference between a statement of fact and an appeal to prejudice. This doesn't mean we should abandon abstract concepts entirely. Ideals like liberty and fairness are essential for a moral society. But it does mean we must constantly strive to connect them to real-world actions and consequences. We should treat them not as sacred objects, but as goals that must be defined in clear, measurable, and achievable terms. Ultimately, a careful and questioning approach to language is a fundamental part of the scientific worldview. It is a commitment to seeing the world as it is, not as we wish it to be or as others want us to see it. By being mindful of the gap between our words and reality, we can communicate more honestly, understand each other more deeply, and make wiser collective decisions. Freeing ourselves from the tyranny of words is not just an intellectual exercise, it is a vital step toward building a more rational, transparent, and humane world. It is our responsibility to our minds, and to the future of our civilization.